You may be asking, why am I wearing a pink onesie for this video? Pink diva for this video. And you might be thinking, you look super, super ridiculous. And that's true. But I have a good answer. The thing we're covering is more ridiculous than a high school teen wearing a diva onesie from a dead video game. And that thing that is more ridiculous is Velma. Just to add to this, I think we need to change some. Hold up. Wait, hold up. Got my John Lennon swag on right now. So, Velma. Why Velma? A show that came out in Halloween. It's been over 6 months since the show came out. That's fair. I want to talk more about the creator and the politics behind the show, not the show itself. I will link some good videos to talk about the quality of the show in it of itself, because I do think the show is a bad show, but I'm more focused on the writing when it comes to talking about the politics behind it, not necessarily the show's quality episode by episode. You get me? So to start it off, we're going to talk about this creator's weird obsession with white men and their dicks. Mindy Kaling has a really weird problem with white men and their dicks. I don't know, and I'm trying to figure it out.
What were saying, and I was just like, and then he reacted like that, and Ike Barinholtz and David Zassin, and they were like, hey man, what are you doing? You could be sued for that. And I got very scared, and then I said, tell anyone and you're fired.
If you don't know who Mindy Kaling is, which I do think you know who she is, well, at least her face, she was in The Office. I forget her character's exact name at the time of me recording this video, but her character was big in The Office for liking Andy and things like that. And she was meant to represent South Asian women. And Mindy talks about how over the course of her career, she never really felt like she earned it. She felt like a token and just was there as a diversity hire. And that's rough, in the new age of Hollywood, for like a diversity hire, so you don't know if you actually have skill. In the show, she was also a writer, and she got to influence how her character was written in the show. And how her character was written in the show was written as a South Asian girl who was really obsessed with the white guy Andy, and wasn't from South Asia as much, so wasn't connected to the culture as much, which was cool because a lot of POC people can understand of not being connected to your culture as much. Then the Mindy Project came, and we started to see a trend. See, the Mindy Project, she got to write again, and it was basically her self-insert character, but her as a doctor. South Asian girl, grew up in the United States, who isn't connected to her culture. Trying to ring a bell, but it was fine. And then the white guys came up, and it was just like her character was like constantly fiending. Now, a lot of people who did watch the show, I have not watched it. A lot of people who did watch the show said her character was nice, in the sense that it was nice to see a South Asian openly express her sexuality, even though she's straight, openly show sexual desire for another person. And that's very rare for women to see, and even women of South Asia, when they're meant to be seen as petite and submissive. So it was good to see them be aggressive with their sexuality. And then her other two series came out, Life of College Girls and Never Have I Ever. And it was the same thing again. And it was like you're repeating. And one thing I haven't mentioned throughout all these shows is, due to her not growing up in India, it feels like she has a self-hatred of her Indian ancestry. And that's toxic, but it's a good thing to talk about because people grow up with that self-hatred, and it's good to talk about them overcoming it. But none of her characters really overcome it as much. And the characters keep doing it throughout every single series that she's in to where it's becoming a trend. So now we get to Velma and it repeats again. Velma is obsessed with Fred, straight white dude. At first hates him, makes a ton of race remark jokes about him being a white dude with a dick, and then doesn't talk about her Indian ancestry a lot, likes to brush it off or makes quick jabs at it that come off as self-hating. It's like it's the same thing over and over again. Now, I want to focus even more on the white guys because it's like liberal comedians, and I use that term very loosely. I am a leftist, please do not call me a liberal, but a lot of liberals who write will sometimes have this idea, especially people of POC, where I dubbed it the Lily Singh comedy, where you call out a oppressor, but you do it in such a bad way. I feel bad for the oppressor. It's like the thing that white racists complain about when we say cracker, but it's done in a way where I actually feel bad for the white racists, the POC person doing. In the show, they make fun of Fred for being a straight white dude because he's framed for the murder of all of these different girls going on. And when this happens, they say in court, Velma says in court when she's on the stand that the reason he did it is because he's a straight white guy with a penis with anger issues. And it's the classic white guys have no real motivations for why they do so many crimes.
Velma, how long have you known the defendant?
We met at lunch in the 8th grade when he confused me for a beanbag chair.
Classic.
And what did you think of my client?
Honestly, that he was super hot. But also that he was just another entitled rich guy who might kill someone because he has a tiny dong.
And there's a funny joke there, but the joke is that you're saying the reasoning behind the joke in the joke. Does that make sense? It's like if I were to write that joke, I would make Velma say, like, what did you think of Fred? He's a regular dude. And what do you think of Fred's father? Probably has way too many access to guns and probably keeps them scattered around his apartment. So with Mindy, it's this comedy, this Lily Singh comedy that always gets me. It always rubs me the wrong way because it's so lowbrow and not funny.
Cheat off me in Spanish because you think I'm Mexican. On TV shows, the malt shop owner is always a friendly black man or a spicy and meatball Italian.
Why would Fred kill Brenda just because she photographed him in the bathroom?
Why wouldn't he? If I were a rich white dude, I'd kill everybody just to get away with it.
Yes, Fred Jones, heir to the Jones Gentleman's Accessories fortune, was arrested last night for murder.
Well, thanks to me. My name, say my name.
Vermin Dorkley.
It's Velma Dorkley. I mean, Dinkley. Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong. He did it. Now, excuse me, I have to go find my missing mother.
Norville.
Velma, not while I'm live. I can't get banned for your thoughts on South Asian desserts again.
I know. It's okay. Like the dessert course at an Indian restaurant. Just forget it.
Live on a lake in Missouri.
Those are all white people, Daphne. Minorities on TV can only deal drugs to escape poverty. Exactly. I spit truth without a filter. Like every comedian before #MeToo.
Look.
And it's the kind of thing where I feel like she wants to understand other POC who aren't Southeast Asian, but don't, because she thinks she understands us by making these jokes. And I frankly, like, you don't understand the black experience by making these jokes. Like, you just don't. And you can see that in the other racial jokes she makes in this show, where it's like some of them hit. This is going to be a weird side note, but I feel like another thing that kind of ties into all of her thing with race and white dudes and is her brother. Now, if you've never heard of her brother, I envy you. Her brother, I forget his name, but he's a weird dude. He tries to lean on this like Dinesh D'Souza loving Trump train. And he wrote a book where he framed himself as a black person to get scholarships and to get into college to write off black affirmative action. I don't need to explain how fucked up that is. After the book, when he's going to his press tour, he says, this is why affirmative action should end, actually. He says too much about race to the point where I feel like it has to come something from their upbringing, and some of it is in Mindy. Now, I don't think Mindy's conservative, but I think Mindy has some underlying issues when it talks about her own race and how that comes off for other issues. And now we're going to get into the jokes and why making an edgy joke doesn't mean say the F word, which is fuck, and show blood and show titties. You actually still have to try. So in the show, it makes a lot of edgy meta jokes. And it does it in a terrible way. You've all seen the clip of the 420, like,
All our classmates are idiots or sheep, so let's assume they're high.
Man, if I ever even think about getting into 420 culture, or especially 420 related humor, kill me. You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
you're making a meta joke about your audience, but in a way that insults the audience who's watching your show. Not when you make a meta joke about your audience, you want it to be a meta joke about how much the creator loves them versus you guys are losers and smoke weed and watch cartoons. And all the jokes in this are like that, but they do meta jokes in this way, similar to the white straight guy jokes, but not different. I actually shouldn't say it's the exact same. All they do is say it. They don't make a joke. They just say, huh, that is a blank, or that is a this.
Thank you for helping me find who threw that geode, and for explaining geodes in terms I can understand. The hot girls of rocks.
Is that a meta joke of how dumb you are? And one of my favorite, because of how cartoon sheet, I'm gonna link his in the description, how he edits this. But one of the jokes is like after Velma does something stupid and destroys Shaggy's home, she's like, I think you should put the blame where it's due. The police, because the police are the ones who literally destroyed his home, but because of something Velma told them. But you're not making a joke about police using too much force. You're just saying police use too much force.
I am so sorry about your house, and you should absolutely place the blame where it's due. The police.
The joke's not funny. It's not funny. You're just saying. And one of my favorite adult TV shows uses edgy humor and meta humor in a way. Frankly, it's just a pilot, but uses it in such a good way. And that show is Has Been Hotel. Both of these shows use meta humor. Their creator is chronically online. I like that she's chronically online, but the creator's chronically online. She's gonna poke jabs at people on the internet, but she doesn't do it by literally saying, Moxie be like, huh, at least I'm not a Twitter troll. No, they'll make a cutaway or something like that. Like one of my favorites was the Cherubs. I'm trying to remember their name. Finding the Cherubs, and they go to the mall, and
Joy comes from innocence unspoiled by the burdens of adulthood and their middle-class existence. Such simple joy they have. It is inspiring. Thank you for showing me this.
Hey, dipshit! Want to see whose lap you're sitting on?
that was a meta joke about him being a pedo, and it was just like, I died laughing when I saw it because it was a meta joke that worked. That they need to be in on the joke, and what I mean by be in on the joke, one thing I think Dumbsville, another creator I'm going to shout out, talks about in his Chip and Dale review is that a lot of meta humor thinks they're in on a joke. The thing they can say, at least I'm not going to do this, and then do it anyway, thinks like, oh, I'm subverting it by doing it. But if you're gonna do it, don't make it plot significant. If you don't make it plot significant, then it's subverting it somewhat. But doing it still is not subverting it. So you're subverting a joke that you made up in your own mind. You're telling a joke that you think you're in on, and you're thinking we're laughing with you and we're laughing at you because the joke didn't make sense. We're laughing at how dumb you are to think you're in on the joke. We're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you. The Velma show does so many tropes, but we'll call it out. Do so many teen mystery drama tropes, but it will do the trope and then act like we're supposed to laugh. Like, the show opens with 15-year-olds in a shower naked, but makes a joke about it, so it's fine.
Discussion topic of the day. Have you ever noticed how pilot episodes of TV shows always have more gratuitous sex and nudity than the rest of the series?
Oh my god, I have.
So true. That's how we learned what Rachel Brosnahan's boobs look like.
And Don Cheadle's butt.
Well, I, for one, think it's lame.
Agree. So lame.
The lamest.
They made the joke. Like, no, it would have been funny if you had them, like, had them naked and then been like, you know how weird it is? If we were in a teen drama, we would be in this shower forever. And they all say, yeah, well, at least we're all taking quick showers because they didn't do much at practice today. And had them leave instantly and not have the murderer kill them in the shower. I need cartoon shows to be more like Has-Been, and I don't need every show to be like Has-Been with its comedy writing. You can be unique. Rick and Morty in its early seasons was doing good meta jokes. If you're gonna do a meta joke and have the meta joke be us doing the trope, don't sit in it for too long, because when you sit in it for too long, it gets really. And for my last point, the show is so bad with its comedy around identity and politics in general that it got both sides of the political aisle to hate it. At a time when this country is more divided than ever, both sides hated this show. So when this show first was announced, I should say, a lot of people hated the idea of Velma being Indian, Daphne being Asian, Shaggy being black, and no Scooby. Also, real quick, the Gigi character, her name is Gigi in the show, is not meant to be a female version of Scooby that end up falling in love with each other. That's not true. That was some shit some far-right people made up on Twitter. Just want to say that now. They were upset. They were doing their typical identity politics, changing up the things and all that. And this one, out of all of them, I could see more of it. Like, not agreeing because I still wanted to see the show, but it was like, it was an all-white cast. So seeing the cast change, like, I understood why the white racist more than anything else was yelling at this. It's like, versus like when they yell at Miles Morales, it's like the characters existed for a while, plus Stan Lee's been super progressive for his whole life, so I don't know why you're yelling. Versus this one, like, I understand why you're yelling. It's still stupid, but these have been all white characters for their entire runs, so I understand why. But when I looked at the show, and I actually watched the show, like sat there and watched it, they do so bad with changing the identities that as someone who should be more on their side politically leaning, I just hate it. And going back to the white guy jokes, they do it in such a way where it's going to piss off the right, because making fun of white guys in general pisses off the right no matter what. But it pisses off the left, or at least liberal people leaning too, because the joke's not good. So you're alienating both sides of the political aisle with your terrible humor. And it's not even like you're trying to make it better or more subversive, but just shit. Like, so many shitty jokes that had so much opportunity to make fun of race or make fun of the white characters changing and how those character dynamics change because of race. And to truly end off this video, I'm going to end off on something very important. So with the writer's strike, a lot of people are looking at the writers' rooms and seeing how white they are. And Hollywood's very white, but it's getting better. You know, you're getting a lot more black writers in there. And with that, a lot of people are questioning this wave of diversity. I mentioned earlier that I just saw Spider-Verse, and Spider-Verse, two leaders of that movie are Chris Miller, two white guys. I just said Chris Miller out there, both niggers. But two white guys leading a movie where the main character is Afro-Latino, the secondary character might be trans, one of them is an anti-capitalist black British person, and then one of the antagonists is also Latino. Character who plays a decent role in the movie is a black woman who's pregnant. And it goes back to this thing where it cares more about the quality of writers. Writers need to care when they write this. And when I look at Velma, they didn't care. The animators cared because the animators actually animated a pretty good looking show. But the writers didn't care. The writers didn't put effort in. They felt like they could just piss off conservatives, and people on the more left-leaning side would just like that they pisses off conservatives and ride the show for that reason. But it doesn't. Man, I gotta get out of this. It's getting hot. Care is the number one thing I think writers should be looking. Not making conservatives angry, even though that's great, but care. Just showing to the audience that you care about writing a good show, even if it's edgy, even if it has meta humor. Showing care is a massive issue in Velma.